Good evening, Julien. How is Paris this beautiful evening? Or is it a beautiful evening?
Good morning, Max. It is a hot evening, which by my definition is a pretty good one. We are not yet sliding into autumn. We're still enjoying the hot weather, which is fantastic. And actually everything is good with me. I wish you could say the same. How are things in your world?
Things in my world they're not bad, but they're interesting. I have a story I'd like to share, and it's actually a continuation of a previous one.
All right.
So remember a while ago we had one about my broken water pipe that was spewing
The sprinkler
all over the place. The sprinkler, yes.
Yes, I remember the sprinkler.
So there was a open piece with all of that, which is, what is the city going to do? Because again, we're in a drought and there are huge penalties when you go over certain water usage. So after I just quick update on what it was in case somebody didn't see the other episode, we had connection to the sprinklers that burst and spewed water. And last time I talked about the poor gardener who caused the leak and all the interactions with him and everything and what it took to get the water turned off. That left an issue of, is the city going to charge me for this mass of water that I used when it was, just a mistake? It wasn't anything that any of the penalties are designed to get somebody for. So I, after everything happened that we talked about before, I called the city and they said, here's an email address, send an email with a receipt that proves somebody did repairs and a explanation of what happened and the dates, etc. So I put all that together. Of course, the gardener does this little piece of ledger paper like this with 4 line items on it, and he put a 5th line item and didn't even say anything. It just had a number on it. So the city wasn't going to do that. So I sent him a text. I sent the gardener a text that I'm making a very nice receipt for the work you did. I hope you're okay. And he said, sure. So I would argue that was not forgery. That was an approved documentation. So I built the receipt. I wrote an email with all the stuff that they want, and I sent it to the city for, the request to have it done. Didn't receive any response. Got busy. Didn't even think about it anymore.
That was a year ago, right? Roughly?
No, it was in the spring.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it was in the spring. Early. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and the city bills our water every 2 weeks. So, every 2 months. So I got the bill that included the date, and I was kind of like, uh-oh, what am I going to get here? And it is very good news. I don't know that you're not going to really be able to see it, but there it is. And you can see this little graph here. And I think they may have overcredited. We're in a drought. They're supposed to baseline us against 2019. No, I guess it is 2020 they baseline us against. According to this, our usage in that window went down 62%, 22 over 20. So clearly that water didn't show up. There's no way we went down that much. So I don't know exactly what they did, but God bless them. It's wonderful. And I was like, did they really never send me anything and saying that they got my email or anything? So I went back, and they were from a very obscure email address. I did get something that said, got your documentation. you can't submit it until after you send us, or until after your bill. Then you can send us complaining about your bill and we'll fix it. And I was kind of like, I would have been very upset about that, but that happened after they'd already given me the credit. So I'm kind of like, okay, well, this is horribly communicated, but I got everything I wanted. Life is good. I don't have to pay. So that's how do you think about, and again, this is like the IRS where, they have the ultimate loyalty program of short of moving, I have no way to not get water from the city.
Well, there are a few things. There is, I don't know how expensive it is in the US, but out of all the utilities you pay for, in France at least, water is by far the cheapest one. I mean, when you compare to electricity, gas, or the petrol you put in your car, water is literally nothing compared to the rest. So, I mean, paying a very expensive water bill to get credit back is probably not that bad. You would be more upset if it happened to electricity. How is that in the US? Is it similar?
It very much varies. There are cities in the United States that do not charge for water at all. But in California, where we have droughts, it's $60 a month. But with the usage stuff and the penalties, it's one of these, so
Okay.
that I don't really know, but it could have been hundreds of dollars very easily.
Okay. All right. Well, you don't want that. So it looks like a typical. I mean, we're always getting back to the same problem. It seems to be the core problem that most companies, public or private, seem to be sharing, which is silos. And
Yep.
I really have a hard time understanding what really happened in your story, because you did two things. You placed a phone call and you sent an email. The phone call told you, I'm not going to do anything about it. Send an email. The email responded too late. We're not going to do anything about it yet. So it looked like no one did anything, but something happened. So either the guy on the phone actually felt bad after sending you away with an email and thought, it's probably going to take me 30 seconds to click 3 buttons. I'm going to do it anyway. Or the guy on the email, there is one who received it, did something, forgot to respond, and another one who took the email 3 weeks later and said, no, I'm not going to accept that. Whatever it is, it looks like there is a major gap in between their departments, and the right hand probably does not know what the left hand is doing. There's probably no guidelines or processes of any sort, and they're all scrambling, trying to figure out what to do. I don't know.
I'm with you. I think that's exactly what happened. That the email came in, it was all properly documented. Somebody sent a reply saying, here's the right thing to do. And then somebody else looked at it and said, look, why? I'm just going to fix this. And God bless them, whoever that was. They made me very happy. My life is good. I did have a very nervous moment opening that bill, waiting to see what I would see. But for me, it's a happy ending. I got what I wanted. Communications was horrible. It certainly wasn't a good service experience. But I don't know. That's a good question. How do you rate an experience where the communication is awful, but you get what you want without unreasonable effort at all?
The question is, well, there are two things I still don't get. The first thing is, how did they make their calculation? Because honestly, what they should have done was looking at what you spent at that period last year, assuming that was like a normal period, not suddenly a gap or a peak compared to what you usually spend, and say, you spend that in 2021, that's what your bill is going to look like in 2022. You can complain, that looks like your average spend, so it's fair. Here's they deducted something making your, well, that's a 2 months period, so your 2 months period lower than ever before. She's very weird and definitely does not encourage people to be careful with their water. You know that you just need to send an email when you took too many baths and filled the swimming pool. So it's a weird thing. I guess that worked out for the best for you, but it's really weird how they make the calculation. The other thing is, why bothering sending an email that both happens too late and contradict what actually happens? It feels like a gigantic waste of their time. Plus, that's creating a negative experience where It's not even necessary. So that's a mix of a few things that could definitely improve on their side for their own sake, not for yours, because ultimately, the email is frustrating, but you got what you wanted. So that's pretty much what's most important.
And yeah, I my understanding of what they did when I talked to the guy on the phone was it's not hard to see on, I forget the exact, April 26th, there was a spike in usage that day. So I think that what it sounded like he was going to do is they're just going to erase that day from the ledger. And that, one day out of 60 is not enough to skew everything. But I mean, water streaming for several hours on one day is enough to skew everything. But just taking that one off the bill doesn't skew things enough. That's how they were going to do it.
All right. Well, I'm not sure we found a way to really solve every possible problem for a similar situation in the future. But again, there are two things. Try not to think into silos. Try to empower your people so that they don't ask you to contact another department. Actually, that's what should have happened in the first place. Either you ask me to send you an email and you're still the same person, or just don't ask me to contact another department. I've reached out to you in the first place. Just don't send me to another person. Stop transferring customers. We're not ticket numbers. We're people. Deal with our issues. Don't send us to other departments. And definitely check whether the problem has been solved before responding that we're not going to do anything about it. That's a weird thing.
Yeah, to me, the core here is a process problem. Because if the rule is you only send this stuff after, the guy on the phone should have made that very, very clear. And then, it's just this, I don't know, it's this weird, like, it's kind of like agent empowerment gone wrong. Because they sent the email saying no, and then somebody decided, oh heck, I'm gonna go ahead and do this. This is silly not to, or whatever. So it's almost like the procedure was no, you have to wait. Poorly communicated to me, and even that. I mean, it wouldn't have been that hard to resend the email, but I appreciate that they did that. But it's amazing to me that everything they told me was wrong, but they ended up giving me exactly what I wanted, which is...
Well, ultimately, you're happy. Your swimming pool is filled. Your car is clean. And, I mean, you probably had 2 good months. So I guess it's a good story. And I guess there is some kind of learnings around fix your processes and don't transfer people again. So there is that.
Yeah.
You feeling any better?
I feel fine. I didn't feel awful going in, but we removed some puzzlement, and I think that was the best that you could do with this one, because this wasn't really a trauma. This was a puzzle.
All right. Well, excellent. Thank you so much for lying on the couch today, and hopefully you'll have some good ear for me next week, because I'm definitely have some moaning to do.
All right. Well, I'll brush the couch off. Thanks for making it available, and we'll talk to you next week.
Perfect. Thanks, Max. Bye.
Thanks, Julien.